Good afternoon, everybody. Thank furlough, it's Friday once again. And what a glorious Friday it is. The sun is out, the crocuses are out, jabs are booked and had, for some of us at least. And yeah, no, I haven't had the haircut yet. It's all tied up in a bun behind, just to keep it out of the way because it's flying in the wind. And yeah, I'm hoping that very soon I shall have an appointment booked. I did ring up to try and get an appointment with my hairdresser, and they said he was booked. I said, well, look, I'm a television personality. Can I have it? Can I jump the queue? And she said, no. Anyway, never mind. I tried. Hello, Jackie. How are you?
Hi, Gary. Hi, everyone. Very well, thank you. Again, lovely sunny day here today.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Glorious.
Everything is coming out at the moment. Yeah. So I've donned the yellow to celebrate the sun and the daffodils that are just about creeping through. And yeah, absolutely. Right. So some stuff to talk about prior to, well, the big day we're waiting for, of course, is the budget. I mean, there is so much speculation going on at the moment about what Mr. Sunak is going to come up with. I think everybody's hedging their bets. They have no idea. I'm hoping he's got some sort of idea, but then again, he could be there at the moment going through the motions and deciding which lot to upset most or least or something like that. We're hoping that he doesn't put anything extra on the taxes. I understand it's possible that corporation tax will go up, but then again, companies have had a bit of a stoning anyway. It's not a job I would like. It's a bit like trying to do our budgets every year, isn't it, Jackie? You know, everybody wants a bit more, but they want to put less in. So anyway, never mind.
It's been great all the time. He was giving stuff away, but now he's got to start clawing it back over the next 5 years or so. So that's not going to be he's not going to be quite as popular, whatever he does, I think.
Although I understand in the budget, he is expected to talk about a further extension to furlough for those that are going to need it. So there's no shock at the end of this.
Yes, and also the one that I was going to say that he's announcing in the budget is the full SACE grant will be announced in the budget. So
fingers crossed for everybody. Right. So what else has come up this week then, Jackie?
Okay, not anything huge, but just a couple of announcements, couple of screens I want to show you that have come out from HMRC that may or may not affect you or your clients. But just to quickly go through them in no particular order, these are a bit muddled up there as they've come in this week. Self-assessment. Now, as you know, the self-assessment date for paying your tax for last year was the 31st of January. And there was an extension, and they did say that the initial penalties would not be accrued. Now, what they've said this week, and this is where I picked it up, is that if you are a late payer and you're asking for time to pay, then as long as you have applied for that by the 1st of April and got that approved, there will be no, the 5% penalty for late payment will not accrue you. So if you want to pay late, you've got to get your application and you've got to apply to do that by the 1st of April. Now, with the Brexit hat on, we've spoken before about some grants to enable small and medium enterprises to benefit from some training if you're involved in imports, exports, and those are grant. I think it's up to £2,000, but that apparently is opening. Applications for that is opening in March. So watch this space. As I get some more details, I'll get them out to you. Now, one interesting thing came up yesterday, I think. Now, when we left Europe, there was an issue because none of the agreements that we've had with the EU before that have automatically been in place, they've all got to be renegotiated. And one of the ones that was still left to renegotiate was very important, and it was to do with data protection and the transfer of e-data between countries. Now, this actually affects things like the police force and criminals and criminal searches and things like that. And this week, the EU have announced, you will be very glad to know, that they consider that the UK's data protection rules and regulations are adequate. They won't say any more than that. They are adequate, and they are considered to be sufficient enough to allow us to transfer our data again. Now, it's still in a draft. It hasn't been signed yet, and it's got to be ratified. But if that is not ratified by the 30th of June, then there is an extension to the old agreement. So it's still working at the moment. And the new agreement will come in place either on when it's signed or the 30th of June, whichever comes first. So
But they don't
that's,
like our data, but they don't like our job, apparently. They're all
yeah, no,
science-
that's right. No, they
Yeah.
don't. So
Right.
silly
Politics,
people.
mate.
Never mind.
Who'd be a
Never mind.
politician?
Right, okay, now I just need to quickly share my screen with you because there's a couple of things that have come up that I need to just quickly show you. Now, I had an email came in from one of our contacts at HMRC, a gentleman called Lenny, who actually has been at our summit a couple of times. Very jolly fellow is our Lenny. He's been there and he sent this around and said we can use this. Now there are some changes to agent services. Now I will talk about the agent services. We are doing a webinar with Verna in a couple of weeks' time on this, but there are some new emails coming out, and the emails are for when you have applied for authorization from a client. As you're aware, your client gets the authorization code and sends it to you, and you put it in, and then everything should be hunky-dory. Now, the left-hand side there is one of the emails that's coming out, just to inform you that there is I think it's 21 days, and that is coming to an end, so that if you don't have your authorization in place by the deadline, you will have to apply again for another one, and that's all to do with the links, okay? And the other one is what's happened if the link has expired without being accepted. So if you have applied for a 64/8 or equivalent for agents as an agent for your clients, and the authorization hasn't come through, then you can expect to start getting some emails just warning you about this. Now, as I said, I'm going to discuss this with Verna. We're doing it on the 9th of March, and more information will go out to you on that. But there is an awful lot at the moment I've been reading going around on the various forums that are around about the delays in all sorts of things here, both the authorization, VAT registration, and everything else. And what came out this week particularly on VAT registrations, is that at the moment, if you apply for a VAT registration, about 70% of the applications are being formalized within 30 days. But the majority of those will be done within 5 days. And by the 31st of March, HMRC are planning that all VAT registration applications will be processed and approved within 30 days. And that's going to be done by the end of March. Now, one of the reasons for the delay is that the information that's being asked for isn't actually being provided, and people aren't providing the correct set of information. So these are the things that you must make sure that if you're applying for VAT registration, you do actually get it correct. You've got to have the address on the application, it's got to match the business's place of interest, the various trade classifications, all of these got to match up, the VAT liability for trading correctly identified. So are they standard rate? Are they exempt? Are they exempt organisation? All that sort of thing. The signatory for the application has got to be a director, a company secretary, an authorised signatory, or an authorised agent for that. Dates on the application and bank details, all those sort of things must match up on the application. Now, if they do, and this is being done online, then it should go through within 5 days. But if any of those bits of information are not there, or if the application is being done by post, this is what's taking the delay. So there's just a list of things there that you've got to make sure you get, not some of those, they've all got to be there. They've all got to be valid for the VAT registration to go through. Right, just a couple more things. I don't need that up there anymore, so let's just stop sharing that. Now, that one I've done. Okay, NTD, it's a income tax for self-assessment. Now, if you remember, or you might remember ages ago, I spoke about the various types of self-assessment. Now, we used to think of self-assessment as SAT, self-assessment for tax. SA has now been reworked so that it now covers the term simple assessment. So if you have someone who has to pay some tax, but who doesn't necessarily have to complete a full self-assessment tax return, they will fall under simple assessment. and they will, this might be, for example, where you've got to pay some tax on interest from building societies. And as you know, that's paid gross at the moment. If that's the only thing you've got to pay tax on, that will be done by simple assessment, not a self-assessment tax return. And also things like some directors now no longer have to automatically do a self-assessment. Any tax they pay can be done through simple assessment. So what we now know as self-assessment, so that's the thing for sole traders, property owners, anything like that, partnerships, that sort of thing, now falls under ITSA, which is income tax for self-assessment. See, simple, isn't it? Now, that comes into the Making Tax Digital family from the 6th of April 2023. Now, the draft legislation for this came out this week. I've had a look at all the documents, and it's one of those track changes. So there's a huge amount of alterations and reds and crossings out and things. But what I picked out was just to confirm that if your tax year runs with if your accounting year, runs with the tax year, so 6th of April to the 5th of April the next year, you must start keeping your records for MTD or your client's records for MTD from the 6th of April 2023. So your first quarterly return will be for April, May and June of 2023, and you'll go all the way through to the following April 24, and then you'll do your final year update. Now, if your tax year is not matching the account, so let's say it goes from the 1st of January to the 1st of December, and you're reporting your self-assessment on an change of basis because your base dates are different to the tax year, your MTD year starts at the start of the accounting year after the 6th of April 2023. So if your tax year goes from your accounting year goes from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, your MTD will not kick in until the 1st of January 2024. Now, this is as I understand it. Now, I'm hoping that Werner's going to confirm this. I just wanted to get it, but that's how I understand it. And that's how MTD for VAT works, that it kicks in on the first reporting date after the MTD year starts. Okay, so for those of you who've got the easy job where your client's accounting years match the tax years, not a problem. It starts on the 6th of April 23. Now, from this April 22, HMRC will be extending the ITSA pilot scheme, and they will be asking for people to join into this to help. So if you're doing MTD for VAT, it might be something you want to consider starting to do the MTD for VAT, because that's going to start coming in from 22. So by the time you get through to that, you're going to have the same information and update it, but it's a way down the line yet. Something you need to start thinking about is those of you who are coming into the MTD. The big change is going to come this April when the old mainframe system goes and the new, I think it's EXML or something system that HMRC are using. Everybody's going to be transferred from the old to the new. So if at the moment you're not a tax agent, you don't do MTD, and your client or you upload your 9 VAT figures via the mainframe system through your government gateway, that's going to have to change because you're going to have to almost re-register for things. So we'll get some information. And one of the things that I'm going to talk to Werner about on the 9th is how that will happen, because that's part of the tax agent process that we're actually going to be going through from start to finish, hopefully. So changes on that. Now, can you remember back to, was it August? Seems a long time ago. Eat Out to Help Out, which seems a very long time ago now. Now, HMRC are starting to check on all those claims that hospitality businesses made. And they have issued some guidance on paying back money that should not have been claimed. So they're obviously starting to look into this one. They've caught up with everything now. But the interesting thing is that if companies have claimed for the wrong reason, or have claimed and they shouldn't have claimed, or they think they've overclaimed, they must pay that grant back. Now, the interesting thing is the liability here, because if the company has now gone insolvent, has gone into liquidation, if and it's the officers of the company, if they were aware at the time that either the claim shouldn't have been made or the claim was made for the wrong areas, those company officers are personally liable for repaying the money and for any tax that might be due on that. So that's just an initial little thing I picked up there for anyone. But obviously, if it was done with the best will in the world and there was an error and the figures just didn't work out, I can't think that there's going to be a problem. It's got to be paid back. But if it's sliding into fraud, which is what HMRC are looking for, then watch out for the liability there. Hopefully, especially if you did all that with your clients, none of those are going to fall into that category. And I know if anybody had picked that up, that would have been dealt with by now by you anyway. Companies House voluntary strike-offs start again on the 8th of March. So if you've got a company that wants to go into voluntary strike-off, Companies House are starting to process those again from the 8th of March. CJRS claims for February. Remember, if you haven't made them for February, the deadline is the 15th of March for that. Now, I've been speaking to a number of members this week about the actual claims and overclaiming, underclaiming. We did hit a slight hitch this week, and we're trying to sort it out with annually paid directors, where they couldn't claim the furlough for the furlough for the previous year because they were paid after the 28th of February. And we're trying to work out now how they can claim where they're going to take their salary in March this year and they've been furloughed or not, how they are going to claim their furlough back. So as soon as I get an answer for that, I'll come back to you with that. Hopefully by next week, we will have sorted this out. Now, sorry, I do need to share my screen again because there is one other thing I want to show you. So let's come out of that and into, where was I? Here. Somebody was asking earlier this week, they can't find the webinars for all the Technical Tuesdays. Now, Mike's Monday, if you go on to the MLR screen here, that's where you're going to find Mike on Monday. But if you want to look at any of the Technical Tuesday, those are actually in the Brexit hub. So if you go onto the Brexit hub, look here at Brexit and go into the Brexit webinars. Now, these top ones are all the Brexit ones. So import VAT, export VAT, down to the online marketplaces. But tucked at the bottom, because we don't have anywhere else yet to put it, is the one that I did on the CIS. So if you are looking for those webinars, that's where it's tucked in. If you just go down and click on it, that will start to pay. Now, the other one I'm looking at is, I can't find it now. Where is it? It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone. Right. Okay, Gary, do you want to?
Yeah, a couple of things there. Just, you were talking about HMRC wanting to check people's names and addresses on their application forms, etc. We are getting a lot of inquiries from HMRC to back up claims. And we're also finding that people have given us wrong information. So I would just say to everybody, look, go on to your My ICB, go on to your practice details, go on to your personal details and make sure that what we have about you and what we know about you is correct. Because if we're asked to verify something and it doesn't match with our records, we have to say no. And we don't want you ending up without being able to do your job. And the other thing is that we had one recently, and HMRC had the person down as a completely different company. And with us, this particular lady was a student, and we found out that she has been trading whilst being a student. She doesn't have a license with anybody. And at the moment, HMRC and ourselves deciding which of us is going to break the news to her, and you know, which of us is going to fine her, because we have to fine now under the legislation. That's our duty, whether we like it or not. But in these circumstances, people have got to understand that you can't just do the first exam in a 9-exam series and suddenly think you're a qualified bookkeeper, because you're not. You know, it's like saying you can add up with 2 hands, and that makes you a mathematician, and it certainly doesn't. And it's the same with bookkeeping. Now, if HMRC do the fining, I gather the fine will be somewhere in the region of about £15,000. So that'll give you an idea. I hope that brings water to your eyes a little bit and makes you realise how important this is. The other thing is that when we need to contact you urgently and we find out that you've changed your number, and people do change their mobile numbers, and we're probably the last on the list of the people to get it, but we shouldn't be. We have to know who you are and where you are at all times. So please keep that up to date. Now, the other thing is that we were asked recently about a person who had put their name on a form at HMRC, part of a practice. We knew the practice, we knew everybody in the practice, but we never heard of this person. It turns out that it's the lady's daughter-in-law that's joined the firm. She said, oh, well, she's only been with me 12 months, so I haven't got round to telling you yet. That's caused all sorts of rumpus. And, you know, you've got to realise that this is serious stuff, so you must have that information right. As far as anything else is concerned, I mean, next week, nothing to do with me this time. I haven't done much to do with this one, but I understand Monday is International Women's Day, and we are doing a day of events specifically aimed at women. And before anybody asks, we're doing a men's day later on, or whatever it might be. But at the moment, we're taking on board the national program. So we are going to be doing something. You can find the details, lots of programs. You get a goodie bag as well if you register. I think you have to register. I think it's only £29 or something or other, but you know, you get your whole day of seminars, etc. So please look at that. The other thing is that we've been asked recently how many of our members have registered for VAT. So we've given them a figure, but over the last couple of days, we've actually come across a couple of people who have registered VAT and forgot to mention that to us. So we will be circulating something shortly saying, look, if you've changed anything, but particularly VAT, if you are now VAT registered, can you let us know? Because I think that although it's not a steadfast rule, some people will register before they have the required turnover. The powers that be are looking at us and saying, well, what percentage of your members are registered for VAT? And it gives them an idea of how much everybody is earning. So there's a lot going on at the moment that, you know, we'd like to, we just want to make sure that we've got things right and you're doing things correctly as well. And the other thing, Jackie, I don't know if you've come across this, but we were asked recently about one of our members by an HMRC department, and they said, could you confirm when the gentleman was actually qualified? Now, he's a fully qualified member. He qualified about 3.5 years ago, I think. You haven't come across this, because I'm just wondering, why are they asking? Are they going to start saying that you've got to have been recently qualified, or what? Because some of our members qualified 20 odd years ago.
No, I haven't heard anything. The only thing I've picked up, which is nothing to do with the length of time, it's and I have mentioned this before, again, it's to do with Brexit, is that the accountancy qualifications are not at the moment accepted into Europe as they perhaps would have been before. But no, I haven't heard anything except that there is a murmur going around the HMRC panels at the moment about things like registering for tax agents. How are you proving that the particular tax agent is qualified and up to date? So it may be to do with CPD and proving that, because there's been a lot going on, as you're all aware, and ICB have put in a couple of consultancy reports on improving the standards of our tax agents, and all of the professional bodies, as you can imagine, are adamant that all tax agents should be registered with a professional body. Well, obviously we would say that. However, even if that doesn't happen, what is going to happen, interestingly, that came out this week, is that it's highly likely that those who register for anti-money laundering with HMRC will still have to obtain professional indemnity insurance. Now, at the moment, they don't have to, but I think HMRC are going to make that a requirement for registering with them as under AML. Well, now that's going to make it a much more level playing field, because at least these possible rogue, I'm not saying they are, because some of them are probably absolutely fine, but you know, possibly some rogue people in there registered with HMRC are now going to have to start taking out insurance. But they are looking at the standard of your knowledge. So it may just be that if someone qualified 20 years ago, they're starting to say, well, okay, what CPD have they done? I can't think of anything more than that, Garry.
No, I mean, the murmurs have been there for a while about wanting only qualified people to do stuff. And, you know, then, yeah, HMRC do have quite a large number of people who were formerly with professional bodies or have never been with professional bodies. But Jackie, you know as well as I do, and you've been marking papers as well as writing and everything else for many years. A lot of people who think they're good bookkeepers really aren't. So yeah, it does. I think the time has got to be somewhere close where this is going to be sorted, but we will wait and see. So who have we got here?
Just before we go into the questions, I've just found the screen. I just wanted to share one more screen with you, and that is this one. If you remember, I did say that every month HMRC are going to issue a list of employers who have claimed under the CJRS, and they've done it for December. Last month, they simply put up the employer's name, but this is just a brief showing here of what's gone up this month for December. And there are 3 items of information here. One is the company registration number, if there is one. Obviously, if it's a sole trader or partnership, there won't be one. The employer name as it's registered with HMRC for PAYE purposes. And then we have the banded claims that they made for the month of December. And these go in sort of 10,000s up to 100 million. Now, it's quite interesting. Most of the early ones, there is one there that claimed between 10 and 25,000, but most of the rest of these here are in the 0 to 10,000, and there are a few. Now, I haven't been through. I would imagine that we will find someone that's a lot higher than that. So if you're just interested, that was released. I think it was released yesterday, that one. So, right, okay. Let's have a look at some questions. Okay, let me take the question from Helen first. EU imports. I've had a couple of these this week. I have a UPS invoice re-import VAT. I believe I can claim the VAT back on the VAT return. Firstly, yes, if you have an import invoice, an import VAT invoice that you pay, then you can claim it straight back on your next VAT return, because that is your proof that you've paid it. If you get the invoice and it's been paid through UPS, then you can claim it back. Now, there's been quite a lot of questions on the agent forum on HMRC about the deferred VAT account, which does not seem necessarily to be working, because as you're aware, if you're VAT registered and you're bringing goods in over £135, you can sign up to have that VAT deferred. So that's when it comes in as a reverse charge. Now, apparently, some of the freight forwarding companies are not really playing the game with this, and they're charging the VAT, possibly because they don't want to do the declarations. I don't know. So you should be able to defer the import VAT, but if you do have to pay it, you don't need to wait for a C79 because they're not coming out anymore. And yeah, you can claim it back, but let's still have a look at deferred VAT. I know there are some issues with it, and there's a few comments here on it. The second half of Helen's comment, do you know if they deal with the declarations to HMRC? Not quite sure what you mean, what declarations you mean there. I think they probably do. And the EU invoice from the supplier in Germany, do I reply reverse charge to this? And therefore, box 1, 4 and 7, i.e. postponed VAT accounting applies. If you're actually paying the import VAT, then you just pay it and claim it back. If you're going through deferred VAT and you're not paying the VAT, then that, postponed VAT, because it's slightly different to deferred. If you're doing postponed VAT, then yes, that's a reverse charge, and it's boxes 1, 4 and 7 of the VAT return. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that's...
So Judith has said on self-assessment, is interest being charged?
No, not if you, it will be charged if you don't register for payments. But if you do register by the 1st of April, the late payment charge will be waived, the 5%.
Thank you, Linda Newis. Happy haircut, Gary. It looks great. Thank you. It has been getting a bit long, but funny enough, I looked back at some photographs because I was thinking it was longer than ever. But I've looked back and I've always had long hair for some reason. Yeah. Nisa says, Brill, I was looking for these. Thanks, Jackie. Olivia Nay, is that anyone? Where do we advise you on the ICB portal that we are registered? Well, it's on the practice license application form at the beginning, you can't then upgrade it yourself. So what you need to do is contact ICB, send us an email with a shot of your details about your VAT registration number, etc., because obviously we can now check that on the HMRC portal, and we'll add that to the system. But so if you could do that for us, that would be great. Thank you very much.
And Olivia's also come back since then, Garry, and said, I've registered my firm with the Institute of Export and have obtained membership. I'm now doing various training courses with regards to trade imports, exports and clearance, Northern Ireland, UK, Ireland, etc. Is this something I need to register with you? I don't think so, Garry, if you're registered with the Institute. I know I have had a look at some of their material that came to me from Sarah Douglas, for which I've already thanked her.
For a while, hasn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, she's been a member.
I mean, I would put it through on your CPD record.
Mm.
And anything that we know about you that you're happy for us to know about you, obviously, is always helpful, because if somebody rings us in and says, I'm looking for a bookkeeper, they've got to have, do you know anybody that knows about import export? Then we can point them in your direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything you can let us know that we can use to your advantage, then please let us know. Great.
And again, C79s are no longer there. They're not being replaced with anything, because either when you get your import export, when you get your import documentation, that is the equivalent to the old C79. So the freight forwarders should be giving you the documentation of the import. Once it's come through and has been released and you've paid the VAT, you can just claim it back on your next VAT return. And the notification from the freight forwarder, I think, is all you need. And you've also asked about the postponed VAT. How does it work? Rather than go through that today, Olivia, can I suggest, if you go onto that Brexit Hub, if you look at the Brexit webinar I did on import VAT, it does go through it in detail about how that works. So have a look at that. If you need any other queries, come back to me, Olivia, and I'll deal with that separately.
So Ian Allen, sorry if you've already covered this, but is anyone else having issues with HMRC online filing for payroll?
I did pick up that there were some glitches earlier in the week, but I'm not sure if that's been solved now. We do try and put up on the website and send out on social media when we know that HMRC is being taken down for whatever reason for maintenance, or if there's a big issue there. But I think there have been some glitches, but I didn't know if it was payroll. Ian, sorry.
Nicola Payne, my client had a C79 VAT certificate for January from an import from Germany in January.
Well, that just about says it all, because HMRC say C79s are no longer being issued, and therefore that just, that's about par for the course, isn't it, Nicola? The answer then is, if you don't get a C79, but you have got a proper form, import form, then I would go with that. And the answer to that is, I think I might as well give up here and now. Oh dear, it's fun here, isn't it?
They're trying to shoot you in the foot, isn't it? It's not fair.
No. Oh, somebody there, Karen, is saying, I came to the party a bit late. Did I understand, Garry, correctly, that we need to notify you of any staff we have in our bookkeeping practice?
Yes, you do indeed. We need to register them. They need to be registered with us either as students or affiliate members or just as employees. You also need to tell us if you have any contractors, subcontractors, because again, if we do decide one day to come and inspect you, we need to make sure that we know what we're expecting and who we're inspecting. And there is a requirement under the legislation that we know everything about you and you tell us as much as you can. And yeah, absolutely. That has been the case actually for many years, but I think it was clarified in the legislation that came out, I think in 2017, which made it something that we have to know. One of the reasons being that the fees that we pay to OPVAS are based on the number of people that we cover. So I don't want them thinking we're fraudulently keeping a few people hidden so we don't pay as much. But anyway, that's probably a different story. But
actually, there's 3 or 4 people come back, Ian, on your point about the filing. Several are saying can't get an FPS through to HMRC. Kate says the same thing. Jane is saying they're having technical issues with filing RTA today. And Ben says, so am I. It's good to know it's not just me. I checked HMRC service availability and it says no issues with PAYE. So yeah, it looks as though they have got an issue there. So it's not UE and it's HMRC. Now,
Perhaps you can file on the 20th.
Sarah, yeah, sorry.
Perhaps you can file on the 29th.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah Douglas, thank you, Sarah. Sarah's put up a list. Iris, in the chat line, there is a link there that Sarah Douglas has put up. Could you repost that to everyone instead of just panelists so that everyone can see that, please? Sarah's got a link from HMRC for payroll starters from 6th of April 21. As the checklist has changed due to Brexit, handy for you to give your clients. So if Iris can just post that link up so everybody can see it, then have a look at that, and I will certainly look at that. And I think hopefully, yeah, it should come up on the screen now. So thanks for that, Iris. And yes, thank you for that, Sarah.
Kirsty, it just ICB that it can take people off. I have emailed, yes, we have to do all the checks. So yes, we do need to just make sure that we take those off. It also makes sure that we know about it in case it's a material change. So certainly that. If we have, Nisa says, if we have employees that were registered students but not after qualifying, not upgraded to affiliate, do I as the employer have to pay them as members? I'm not quite sure what you're asking then. I think the thing is that if they don't upgrade and they remain as students, that's obviously not particularly good for them. It doesn't look good on your practice. So I would try and persuade them to become a full member, because then they come under the rules and regulations of a full member, the professional conduct regulations in full. But do I have to pay them as members? Does that mean
I've just reread that and said, do I have to pay their membership fee? Do I, as their employer, have to pay their membership fee?
No. Normally people pay their own membership fees, but what happens is that they have their own record, and then that is appended to your record so that we know who you employ. So we will still contact them on a regular basis to say you need to do some CPD, or you need to do your next exam, or whatever it might be. So that wouldn't come through you as the practice, that would go directly to them. So, well, as with your own record, you are also a person, a member within our organisation, as well as a boom business within practice.
Yeah, what I would add to that is that the membership fee, because we are a recognised professional body on the list of professional bodies with HMRC, you can claim your membership back as a member. So if they're paying it themselves, they can claim it back through their personal tax account. And if you're paying it as your business, you can claim it back as a business expense. So that is the tax deductible expense.
And I think we're still there in some strange connotation, aren't we? Aren't we Certified Bookkeepers Institute of or something?
Yes, it's not exactly where you would expect to find it. Yeah.
The number of people who've looked under eye and can't find it.
Yeah, no, I think it's Certified Bookkeepers Institute of. I think we're probably one of the only ones that done that. I don't know why they put it that way.
We've tried over the years to change it, and they said, oh, well, if you change it, you've got to come off first, then apply to go back on. So I think, oh, goodness gracious, you know.
And Olivia says, how do I register my staff with the ICB?
You get in touch with us and we create a record for them, and then that's basically it. And we make sure that we know that they're working with you, what position they have with you, etc. Yeah, please, if you can do that. I
would think email to member services.
Possible, please.
Email to member services.
Yeah, member services is no, actually it's compliance.
Compliance, okay.
Send them to compliance, because member services is a bit too broad.
Yeah.
This compliance issue to make sure that you're compliant with the requirements. So yes, please, if you could do that. I mean, to be honest with you, if anybody does this today, we'll draw a line in the sand and we'll just put them up there, and that'll be the end of that for the moment. So, you know, I'm sticking my neck out and giving you a bit of a moratorium there. Let's just get that done, please, because we have another return to produce for OPBAS in the next couple of months, and I need to make sure that we are doing things properly, because I'm always a bit concerned that they know more about you than I do and they're not telling me. And obviously they're concerned that I know more about you than they do and I'm not telling them. So we're on a bit of a
Judy's got a follow up to that, saying, I've added staff on the hub. Do I need to email as well?
The hub? Not sure what you mean by the hub.
No.
I'm sorry, Judith, if you could explain that. The best thing to do is call us and just see if we know about your staff. It's as simple as that. And if you do, if your staff do leave, if you could also tell us. Again, we had something probably 6-8 months ago now where one person ended up at Her Majesty's pleasure, and we thought she was still working for one of our members, and it turned out she wasn't. She'd gone off and done her own thing. So just so that the point was, had we not been told that, it wouldn't have looked very good for the practice. As it turned out, it looked pretty good for the practice because our practice member had sacked her. So anyway,
Judith's come back and said on the hub, my ICB record, she's added it to. I don't know enough about how that works. Might be worthwhile just getting in touch with compliance, Judith. Just
no, right, yeah, Judith, if you could please. I'll try and email.
That's quite specific. I think compliance is by far the best people to deal with that. One more while we're talking about notifying ICB. Pauline Chapman's come on. I have set up a COP agreement with an accountant, continuation of practice, I think that means. I assume that I would need to let you know about this too?
Yes, please. It would be helpful so that we know, just in case something happens, and we can make sure that that is all working. There will be a registry that we'll put together shortly, which will be hidden until such time as any unfortunate necessity makes it important for us to get hold of that information. So we're not going to do anything with it, but yeah, I think that is helpful, certainly. Yes.
Okay, slight change of subject.
You can add members of staff directly on your My ICB, and we will get an automatic alert about that. So yeah, please, if you could do that.
That's fine then. Yeah, and Judy says my practice details has space to add staff booms, etc.
Yeah, it's a long time since I've done things like that.
I was going to say
I didn't want
not looked at it.
Wrong information, but the booms also is very, very important. That for those of you who don't know what that is, and I'm hoping most of you do, beneficial owner, officer, or manager. Now, a beneficial owner is anybody who has a share in the business. I mean, technically more than 25%, but it's best if we know about everybody. So if you've given half your business to your husband, wife, dog, son or daughter or something or other, and say yes, but they've got nothing to do with the business because I've just given it to them for the future, I'm afraid they are still a beneficial owner, because if anything goes wrong, they are the owner of the business and they own part of that business. So we do need to know that. An officer can be somebody who is a director of the business, but he's perhaps not a company's house director, but you call them a director because they're running the show for you, or they're very responsible and they have their own clients that they are specifically responsible for, and a manager likewise. It's really just so that we know who controls the business. And it's very much like the due diligence that you have to do on your own clients. You need to know when you're dealing with your client that you are speaking to the head honcho, the person who's responsible, or somebody that, if anything goes wrong, you can go to for answers or responses. And they have the authority to be speaking to you. And that's exactly what we want to know within your practice. If that changes at all, if you take your 50% back off the dog, husband, wife, or whatever, we need to know that as well so that we can remove them as a boom. And the other thing to remember is for every boom that there is, we need a DBS, which is a basic disclosure certificate to say that they have no outstanding criminal record. And that's important. So they get that. Those of you who forgot how to do it, they get it, and you send it in to us. Do we send you the DBS? Yes, you have to send the DBS in. Actually, you get them to do it probably, but you can send it on their behalf. And again, you send that to the compliance department. If you've got any doubts, give us a call and ask to speak to somebody from compliance.
Okay.
No, we don't need the original. Most people actually take a copy of the original, Olivia, and then they send that through to us. but it must be the full original. Don't just send the bit in the middle which says there are no criminal convictions, because you've got to make sure you've got your name on it and the numbers all tie up with the information that we have. How do you regulate if you need your DBS? That's something we're working on at the moment, but it will shortly be annually. At the moment, as long as we've got one from you and nothing has changed, then stand by your beds at the moment, but that is going to change. In fact, the law, I think, or the rules, I'm not sure if it's law, but the rules changed earlier this week, and we're just trying to figure out what it means. But the other thing is that we will shortly be asking students when they register also to supply a DBS, because it's a waste of time. People coming in as students, getting all the information, not joining in membership, and meanwhile they've been able to join in with meetings and coming to seminars and conferences and everything else, meeting and greeting our other members when they've got criminal convictions. So we don't want to expose any of you to that.
Did you see Sarah's question about the amount of time? Sorry, I was reading something else. How often do we need to do it, to do a DBS?
Yeah, no, that's what I've just been saying.
Oh, okay.
What I would suggest with anybody that's doing one at the moment is, if you take advantage of the service that's available from the DBS people for a one-off payment at the beginning, but then you do a standing order or direct debit, and I think it's only £10, and then that's updated on an annual basis. That means also that if anything crops up in between, that you get to know about it. So if you're doing this for your own staff, and I would suggest that if you're employing anybody, you can ask for a DBS. If you get that, so that if something's happened that you don't know about, you will be alerted by the DBS authorities. Of course, Sarah, for you up in Scotland, it is a different organisation, but nonetheless, it's still a DBS.
And Kirsty, was something from Kirsty about photo ID. Did I miss having sent that to you? You can't tell from my ICB when it was loaded, i.e. the expiry date. So don't know about that one.
Oh, Kirsty, I need to check on that one. I'll get somebody to check on it and come back to you. Obviously, what we really need is a good director of professional standards. Yeah. Anyway, Lucy Brown is coming in. She's going to get a lot to do. So.
There's one quick question there from Susanna, which came up a while ago, about trying to book onto the International Women's Day this morning, but it says I'm already booked on. I have emailed membership services, but I just wanted to let you know as well. So 2 for the price of 1, Susanna. Okay, lovely. Okay, a couple of technical things here. Isla is saying, can we do a session regarding digital links for VAT MTD, which take effect from April? I'm trying to prepare clients, etc. Yes, Isla, could I ask you please just to pop that into an email for my attention? I will set up a Technical Tuesday. I think it's a very good one for Technical Tuesday. I'm starting to plan some updated sessions, and I'm going to try and get the relevant people from HMRC to come along and do these, so that, as you know, when I do these, I do it from sort of theoretical side, and then I find I can't answer all the questions. So we're trying to get some HMRC people to come. They've offered to do that. So particularly the MTD links, I can get somebody to come and do that. So yeah, I'll set that one up. And Usha is saying, has anyone been successful with deferring VAT? I processed a client's request, all went well until the final stage, with a message from HMRC saying there is a problem with your request. Don't contact us, we will contact you. I'm not completely aware. I don't think everything has gone 100% smoothly, and I think there have been some issues. So maybe I can go and find out if there are any problems in that area, Usha. And Helen said, just to clarify, read the EU invoice on my previous question. If the import VAT can be claimed, do I need to apply postponed VAT or just add the invoice as a zero rate of supply? If you pay the VAT and claim it back, it's not a postponed VAT. It's you're paying it and you're claiming it back. And postponed VAT isn't compulsory. It doesn't have to be compulsory. It's something that you have to register, I think, for. So if you've got something with import VAT, you can import it and then maybe declare the VAT separately and pay the VAT off a separate invoice and claim it back. So I would just put your goods in as zero rated imports and then deal with the VAT separately in the VAT account. Alison's saying I can't file self-assessment today either. So obviously HMRC have got some major issues here.
Right, Craig said I set one VAT deferral by instalments yesterday without any problems. So
oh,
it's
well,
a bit
maybe,
random.
yeah, I know it's being settled down. And I have a feeling that the first deferred VAT statements for January will be available fairly soon. So when to February, they should be available. Now, I know there's an awful lot of work going on, a lot of settling down. Hopefully it will get sorted. So if one person's done it,
Yeah.
shouldn't be a problem. Thanks for that, Isla.
I payroll RTI today and have receipts from them all from HMRC. If it is not working, take a screenshot so you do not get charged the £100 late fee for each client. Screenshots are always very helpful anyway. Yeah.
And Suzanne has come back and said, thank you, HMRC deferred. I got that error message yesterday, tried again today and it went through. So it seems to me as though HMRC have got some serious issues at the moment with anything online. So yeah, if you've got error messages, do try and apply again, do try and put it through again. And someone's just said, Kate said, my RTI has gone through now. Okay. Maggie says, I have received an UPS invoice with no VAT, but in the breakdown, it shows charges and VAT. So I can presumably reclaim that VAT. Certainly if it's import VAT shown, you can reclaim it, because the UPS invoice will just be for VAT and charges and customs and anything else. So you'll be paying UPS. And then when you post that through, I would split it when you post that UPS invoice, I would split it down so that any charges and anything go through. The import VAT will go through. How you do it on your software maybe is 100% reclaim, I'm not sure. And then any VAT on the UPS charges obviously would just claim back. So that's an interesting one. Right, so that's that one. Ian says, Ian's come back for his HMRC issue from the online help team. There is an HMRC issue with the RTI system at the moment, and we've not had time to update the pages yet. I asked on a time frame, and they said we don't have a time frame yet, but if they are late, it's an acceptable as an HMRC excuse. If you remember last week, I put up something that said for late claims are accepted if the error is with HMRC. So yeah. Someone else said, looks like HMRC's cleared now. It's all going through. I love all these people that are sitting and listening to us in the background and doing their ITI returns.
Yeah, it's good.
Right. I love it. Pauline's had no problem setting up a payment plan for deferred VAT. Deferred VAT is slightly different to postponed VAT. Now, postponed VAT is where you're bringing in as reverse charge in and out. Deferred VAT is slightly different. Deferred VAT is VAT on certain items, which, as I understand it, might be for items which have duties payable, or like drinks and that sort of thing. So I think the two are slightly different, deferred and postponed. Any questions? I'll try and come back and answer with that one.
Try another VAT deferral as well yesterday. Client has made a partial lump sum payment during the year. This is showing as an unallocated payment, and the system is trying to set up instalments for the whole amount originally installed. Haven't managed to get through to HMRC yet. Well, they need the money at the moment, so perhaps they're trying to hang on to it. I'm sure you can, when you get through, that'll be
yeah. I can't answer specific questions like that because obviously I'm not involved in the system. So it's useful to let people know that there are still some issues. Hopefully by the time we get to needing to do our first VAT return at the end of March, these will all have been sorted out. Alison's having problems filing using Andika today as well, so hopefully that will all go through. Right, let me just clear down the ones we've answered. Peter says, oh, how do I tell you I'm VAT registered? Can't see this in my details on the ICB website.
No, you need to contact ICB, please. Email or contact us. Just pick up the telephone and speak to somebody. You'll need to confirm it in writing anyway. But
yeah, we'd probably attach a copy of your VAT registration certificate, I would think. Okay, that's that one.
And if you've got a turnover of more than £1 million, could you give us a quick call? Because
can I come and work for you?
Yeah, we've got a couple of our members, funnily enough, that are over £1 million turnover. We were asked a little while ago by Treasury what you got it now. I definitely know one has got a turnover of more than £1 million. It's about 1.8 million. But since then, a couple of other people have said they have. Now, I've misled HMRC, I'm afraid. I said, as far as I was aware, there was only one, but I gather it could be 3, 4 of you. So if you let me know, please.
Okay. As you are aware, my brain gets very confused very easily, and I'm the deferred VAT that people are referring to is nothing to do with deferred customs VAT. It's to do with the deferred VAT payments for under the coronavirus scheme. My sincere apologies. Thank you to Debbie, who's just pointed out what she thinks everyone's talking about, and I got that completely wrong. Yes, that's the issue. We have postponed VAT for import tax for VAT. We have deferred VAT for import VAT, and we have deferred VAT under the coronavirus scheme. So now let's talk about deferred VAT under the coronavirus scheme. All of the VAT payments that were due between April and June last year, you could defer until the 31st of March. They've now allowed you to do that. Now, there is a new registration system that's opening. I think it opened this week, but it may very well be that the system is not doing very well. And you can apply for up to 11 months deferral. Now, what you have to do, this was discussed in the tax agent meeting this week. So what you do is, if you register this month, you pay 11 equal instalments. But if you leave it to register until the end of March, you'll only get 10 instalments. So the later you register, the fewer the direct debit instalments and the larger they will be. Okay. And that should be open. Agents cannot apply on behalf of their, let me just check, because I've got a note about that somewhere. The deferred VAT applications have to be made by your clients and not by you as an agent. I've got here, right, let me read this out. The VAT deferral scheme was launched on Tuesday. The service application portal closes on the 1st of June. So you've only got till the 21st of June to apply. And you have to agree your direct debit, which has to be equal, and it's a fixed payment. You cannot then flexibly change this. So if you suddenly want to pay off more, you can't. You can, I understand, choose the number of instalments that you make up to the maximum allowable. You have to give your direct debit details, and agents cannot apply for the business. So if you've applied for this as an agent, that may be why you're getting an error message, because it has to be done by the business owner, not the agent. So hopefully that's
Kirsty's actually just put up a link. I presume that's one that we've got on our hub somewhere, but
yes, but again, perhaps Iris, could you pop that up to everyone, please, for attendees? It's the one from Kirsty at the bottom.
Yeah, Pauline,
webinars
go down on our record as CPD. I'm not sorry, I got lost there as to which webinars you're talking about. If you mean the International Women's Day seminars, our seminars on Monday, yes, of course. Any seminars really that are extending your professional capability can go down. If you carry out some form of assessment at the end of that course and you get a certificate, not just a silly CPD certificate with a tick on it, but a proper certificate that you've done a test, then that upgrades your CPD to structured from unstructured. If you tell us to a webinar and we don't know whether you listened or fell asleep or whatever, then obviously we can't give you structured. So
Paulie's actually saying, she's talking about thank furlough, it's Friday. It's definitely unstructured. Nothing this manic can be considered to be structured.
It's certainly not structured, but it is definitely. Yeah, I think
so, because I think you could put it down as unstructured, because we're giving you an awful lot of information. Actually, I want to come back to something else, just to pop in about CPD. Can I just remind everybody that if you are doing CPD, whatever you're doing will go into your CPD record. That's absolutely fine. But if you are, we've had a couple of questions about someone who wants to do an additional qualification. Can they claim it for tax purposes? The answer to that is no. If you are taking a qualification, that increases your ability and improves your knowledge as far as what you can do, you cannot claim that back. So let's say, for example, you're a member, you've done the level 2, level 3, and you go on and do the level 4. Because that broadens out, or the payroll or self-assessment, because that broadens out or raises the level of what you can do, you can't actually claim the cost of that course or that exam as far as tax purposes go. Just to probably worthwhile remembering that, because we did have someone ask that a couple of weeks ago.
It always sounds a bit strange to me, that one, but that's one of those things. Now, the other thing is, just whilst we're talking about CPD, CPD is not a qualification, and that's an important thing to remember. We have had discussions, if I can call it that, recently with one of our training providers who is offering courses and saying at the end of it, you can either do a qualification or a CPD, and then use your CPD to claim an exemption from ICB. We do not accept that as an exemption from a qualification. A qualification is exactly that. Now, the fact that you've got a CPD for tax or for payroll or anything else does not allow you to do that as part of your ICB qualification, because it's not a qualification. And when you have your professional indemnity insurance, it says that you can do anything for which you are qualified. And qualified means exactly that. It's a registered, listed qualification. So the fact that you've been somewhere and got a couple of certificates, it's not covered. It's not covered at all. So you need to be aware of that. So if you're offered the easy opt-out, you get to the end of it, you think, oh, I won't do an exam because I hate exams. I'll just get a CPD certificate. Because we're getting people sending in their CPD certificates and saying, right, can I have an exemption now? No, of course you can't. Because if we make people sit an exam, you can't come in through the back door and say, well, I've got a piece of paper, it says I've finished my training or something. It's not the same. So, yep, hobby horse.
Couple of follow-up questions. Susanna has said, if you're doing the level 4 self-assessment but have already done the level 3 self-assessment, would this be tax deductible? No, it wouldn't, Susanna, because it's an additional qualification that actually increases what you can do. Now, please do not take this as even we're thinking about doing this. But one of the easiest ways to explain this is if you do your qualification, you cannot claim it as tax deductible. If the ICB should ever say to you, in order to keep that qualification, you have to do an update qualification. And this is just me throwing something out there for tax. That would be tax deductible, because you would have to do that test or qualification to be able to continue practicing what you're doing. It's like an electrician who has to retake their electrical regulations every year or every 2 years. So anybody that has to do CPT to retain their practicing ability, that is tax deductible and claimable. But if it's something new, it's not. And Sarah says, Gary, if you receive a claim badge for doing a course, is that regarded as structured CPD?
It depends what you've done to get it, Sarah. A lot of organisations are offering CPD certificates, and they've got what I think is quite a nationally recognised certificate. It's a circle with a big ticket, CPD. No, that's not acceptable, because actually anybody can ring up and say, I'm doing a CPD course, and you pay them a fee and they give you the tick. That's not acceptable. It's whether or not you've done a test at the end of that, which is separately marked by somebody. So in other words, it's no good if you do a test and then you turn over the page and check whether you've got the answers right, or look at the next screen or something like that. That's not acceptable either. It is CPD, and you can have it as unstructured, and you can have as much unstructured as you want. But the obligatory bit of structured CPD, which you now should be doing every single year, it doesn't count for at all. So that's got to be something that you're tested in, or your money laundering stuff, or you do your level. If you do your level 4, or you do whatever that you haven't already done, your payroll self-assessment test, as long as we're examining you at the end of that, as long as you're doing one of our tests, we know that you've done it, you can prove that you've done it, then that is acceptable. It's a sort of discussion point, and we've been having this big discussion point for many, many years, and those of you who've been with us a few years will know. But people are coming to us with all sorts of bits of paper, you know, and it's got to be, well, as the word suggests, it's got to be structured, it's got to be done properly, and it's got to be a good reason for it.
Okay, just moving away from CPD, going back to deferred VAT, Judith has said, so has the VAT either got to be paid by the 31st of March or put on instalments? My client wants to ignore it until they are told they have to pay. I think you're right, Judith. I think it's, if you don't apply for the time to pay and have that on that deferred VAT agreement, then it's got to be paid by the 31st of March. And if that agreement isn't in place, you may have a bit of a time in which to do that, because the portal for applying for this is open until, I think I said, the 21st of June. So if you haven't got an arrangement to pay in place by the 21st of June, I think you are going to have, your client is going to have to fork out the whole of the money. And Isla, your comment you made earlier that I've left, I've just read something about this MTD and data import from an EPOS system. Now, I think the rules of inputting into the MTD system for that is it has to be done on a daily basis. So you have to take a daily Z recording or whatever from your EPOS till and import that as daily sales. Now, what I'm not sure about, and we will find out, Isla, is whether that can be kept into some form of spreadsheet, perhaps on a daily basis, and then the monthly totals imported, because if you're importing it from the spreadsheet, that could very well be your digital link. But we will look at this and we will come back on this, and we will be doing an awful lot over the next couple of months, I think, on MTD, tax agent status. There's an awful lot going on at HMRC at the moment.
I've just been reminded on sent a message here to say that following the summit last year, one of the requests that came out of members was, could we put together an annual test which people could do instead of having to accumulate CPD that would cover the CPD requirement? Now, we are looking at this at the moment because it ties in with a number of things, like the thing that Jacquie mentioned before, completely off the cuff, but nonetheless, that, yeah, we think perhaps it is going to be necessary soon to prove that you do retain knowledge, or you have retained the knowledge, that you know what you're talking about now. I'm sure somewhere out there we've got people who still remember VAT at 15% and what have you, and have not actually been qualified under the new level. I mean, that's minor, but some of the other things are changing quite regularly. So yes, I think we will be doing that before long. We're just trying to work that through at the moment, and when that comes about, we will tell you. Because a lot of what you do is unstructured because you don't get a test at the end, and sometimes it can be a little difficult. I fully appreciate that, to show that you've been tested. And once you've done your payroll, and once you've done your self-assessment tax, etc., and then you've done your level 4, where do you go next to get something? So some people are actually doing mock exam papers. That's something else to think about. A mock exam paper that is marked, that we mark. You get a mark from the system, then you can put that forward as structured. But anyway,
Sarah's just followed. Yes, Sarah's just followed up, because her course that she did was with the Institute of Export. So Sarah, perhaps we can pick that up. It's quite specific. Perhaps we can pick that up separately, Sarah.
I think that should be okay, but I'm not sure.
It's with an institute, another recognised institute, and if they are structuring it, and it is very something like, maybe, pick that up separately, Sarah.
Yeah. We've got somebody else back.
We've done all the questions. I think we've probably covered everything now.
I think we've covered everything. I mean, it's 9 minutes past 3. So what started thought quite a slim day has turned out to be a good hour plus, which is great. And we've just got, as always, another one there. Alison Trembling. Oh dear, I've recorded some webinars as structured CPD, but should be unstructured. Can I amend this? Yes. We look at your record randomly, so we've obviously not come across that yet. If you put that down as unstructured, if you're in any doubt, give us a call, speak to professional standards, and just check it through with them. It's very difficult to give you a black and white answer, to be honest.
Yeah,
Sorry?
maybe if you go back into your record, Alison, you can just re-switch it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and it does
Okay.
really depend on what it is you've been doing. So, Jacquie, what's it? It's obviously going to be a lovely weekend. You'll be out in the
Yeah.
sun, no doubt.
Oh, I should be out my garden this weekend. Yeah, definitely. I'm also
Right.
looking at starting to move back into my office for the spring as well. If the weather, I think we've got another cold snap supposed to be coming, so I may not move back just yet. But I'm just in the process of sorting out the office so I can move back into it.
Well, I got my job last week, as I said before, and I'm about to take June for hers today. So
Lovely.
we'll both be done. So, or we just got our first one done.
Yeah. Yeah, mine was 2 weeks ago, so I'm 2 weeks into my 3 weeks before I've got my cover for it.
Right. Well, as the Queen says, we've all got to do it. It's part of our duty, and I think that's the point. If we can all get it, there does seem to be a problem with some people not wanting to, and obviously everybody has their different reasons for it. But yeah, if they're also talking now about the COVID passports being available soon. I don't know what that means quite. But yeah, if we're all going to be treated like pariahs if we haven't had the jab, I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. And I'm sure some con man somewhere is already selling them on the street corner because they were selling jabs not long ago.
Sarah says you're telling us your age, Garry. I assume that it means Garry, not me. Everybody knows how old I am. Isn't it available to the over 50s? Or are we still at over 60s? I'm not sure.
Over 50s now, isn't it?
Over 50s. No, therefore you. I can't. I'm not sure.
I got mine a long time before June, and yeah, Jacquie, I was right at the front of the queue, aren't we, Jacquie?
Oh, not quite as far ahead as Leslie, but I must just tell you this as an interesting. This might be your chuckle for today. This week, Leslie, and a lot of you know Leslie's age, had an email from NHS to say that he, after a whole year, my lovely 89-year-old has been told he is now considered to be extremely clinically vulnerable because of his age.
Right.
A whole year. And they finally told him that he counts as extremely clinically vulnerable, which we thought was quite amusing.
Okay. Yeah, well.
I don't know why. And I think it's to do with the fact that the government are appraising the people who should be on the clinical list. But yeah, we thought it was rather amusing that Leslie should get an email this week to tell him that he's got to take extreme care and not to go out the house unless he absolutely has to, a year after this whole thing started. Well, he has been. Anyway.
Leslie's got a lot more life in him than a lot of people half his age.
I know, it's amazing. But anyway,
yeah.
I thought you might appreciate that chuckle. Okay.
All right, everybody. So look, it's going to be a glorious weekend. Have a wonderful time. If you're going for your jab of between now and the next furlough, it's Friday. Thank furlough, it's Friday. Then good luck with that. Make sure you get there on time and don't do as I do. Get directed into the car park and straight back out on the other side. Obviously didn't
around again.
And I can tell you it doesn't hurt. I hate jabs, I hate needles, and I said I wouldn't look, so I didn't, and I didn't feel anything, so it was great. Yeah. And let's hope we're all going to get out of this. I'm still not. I've read the instructions so many times. Everything is a little bit different. But yeah, let's hope that we get a reasonable summer out of this. And I, for one, I'm not going to go rushing into going abroad. I'm just going to feel really pleased to get out there in the sunshine in a walk and not have to worry about passing somebody on the path in the park or something or other. So anyway, right. Jacquie, thank you very much once again. Have you got anything on Tuesday?
Not this week. No, at the moment I'm back on the 9th with Verna. She's doing two with us because she's doing something on Monday for us, and she's doing Technical Tuesday with me. And then I'm going to start, hopefully we'll start looking at some Technical Tuesdays to do with VAT, MTD, that sort of thing. Right. And don't forget International Women's Day on Monday. Yeah. Go onto the website, see what we've got to offer, get your goodie bag, join in. I thought it was a misprint at £29, to be honest with you, because it doesn't sound enough to me. But anyway, never mind. You're getting a bargain. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Oh, and by the way, someone suggested when furlough goes, we call it Thank Felicity, it's Friday. Somebody told me, I don't know. Never mind. So, everybody. Anyone that doesn't know, that's my middle name. Anyway, yeah, okay, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Bye. Bye.